Greetings and welcome to this week's Midweek Meditation with the Minister. I'm Reverend Don Fortune of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Jersey Shore in Galloway, New Jersey. It is the week of Christmas, and it is the time when we hear the story of how Jesus was born, and it causes us to think about a lot of different things at this time of the year. I'm going to share with you this morning the gospel passage that I think is probably the most familiar to people. This is from the Gospel according to Luke. It's from chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration and was taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria. All went to their own towns to be registered. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David called Bethlehem, because he was descended from the house and family of David. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged and who was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of cloth, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them at the inn. That's Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. And I have here, this is one of my favorite study versions of the Bible. It's called the People's Bible. And it has little pieces like that, little shaded pieces that offer commentary for scholars who are reading or who want to think a little bit. And this piece is written by a scholar named Miguel A. de la Torre, who is at Iliff College out in Colorado. And he writes, Jesus is born in the condition of homelessness, in a barn, among animals and the manure they produce. He is placed in a manger, a wooden box or a hole on the cave wall from which horses and cattle ate. The unsanitary conditions of Jesus' birth are not lost on the wretched of the earth, who recognize God's solidarity with them. To you is born a Savior, from verse 11. The slave spirituals bear witness to the link between Jesus and the marginalized, for they would sing, "Poor little Jesus boy, made him to be born in a manger. World treated him so mean, treats me mean too." And that again is by Miguel de la Torre, who's at Iliff. And Christmas time often gets wrapped up with the commercial Santa Claus, reindeer, presents and stockings and things like that. And while it is true that Jesus was probably not born in December, he's probably born in March, but this is when this story is told. And it's worth remembering the situation of the birth of this person who would come to be called a Savior, who was to be called the Messiah, the Anointed One. And Joseph and Mary were a complex couple traveling far. They didn't want to go. They were required. They were of an economic status where people could order them around. You need to go here and do this and go there and do that. And it is the most humble of beginnings for a Savior. And Jesus in the Gospel of Luke is portrayed as a Savior that is accessible to the poor. Jesus is not the Savior that comes in on a solid gold chariot with flags and plumes and slaves and all sorts of things. Jesus is this guy who was born in a rough spot, in a family that was questionable. You know, his mom was a teenager and his dad was this old guy, and that's a story that many folks who are from historically marginalized populations understand. They understand being on the outside. They understand being disadvantaged. They understand being unwelcome in polite company. And so, in the midst of all of this holiday hoopla and Christmas trees and Santa Claus and shopping malls and Christmas carols, oh, Christmas carols are nice, but all of that stuff, that sparkle that happens around this time of the year, I want you to remember that humble is okay. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay to just do the best you can and find a place to sleep where you need to. And you don't need gold and silver. Sometimes you just need a warm place to be that's out of the rain. And that's how the situation was in the story of Jesus' birth. So, we won't have a midweek meditation next week. I bid you a good vacation, a good break, a good holiday rest. I will see you in 2022. May your holidays be safe and filled with joy and healthy and love and peace. Be well.